Hello and welcome to ThePrint. I am Neelam Pandey and today we are discussing an important book and an interesting book by Ashok Tandon, who was in charge of media relation during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's Atal Bihari Vajpayee's PMO. Welcome to ThePrint, sir. Your new book, Atal Samsaran. I've read it and there are very interesting nuggets. I want to begin with the 13-day fall of we've always talked about how did that government fall. You've mentioned how Mr. Mahajan was very insistent that we must, at least stake claim, right? And there were a number of leaders who were against it.
Yes.
You even point out that it is known that apparently the late Sushma Swaraj and Mr. Mahajan also had a bit of a heated argument. What exactly happened? What happened during that time?
No, when the 1996 election was held and there was no party with absolute majority and the BJP appeared as the single largest party. So as we know, the procedure is that the President of India will invite the single largest party and then subsequently the other party to explore the possibilities of the government formation. Now in that process, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma, who was the President of India, he invited Mr. Vajpayee and Mr. Vajpayee went, and then before Vajpayee could say anything or even the president could ask him whether you are in a position to form the government, the president had kept a letter ready in an envelope. And the letter was that you are hereby appointed as the Prime Minister of India and now you prove your majority within 15 days on the floor of the House. Now this was something surprising for Mr. Vajpayee also. So he couldn't say anything at that time and he came back. And obviously they had to discuss it within the party.
Right.
So party leaders were also waiting for Vajpayee to come back and tell us that we have said no and sorry and all that. And Vajpayee took out the letter and said, this is what the President of India has given me. So what to do now? So obviously the general impression was, by and large majority opinion was, that we should say, sorry, we can't form the government, we don't have the number, we can't prove the majority. But at that time, Pramod Mahajan, who was not that senior in the strict sense of the term, he took a stand. He said that we are already dubbed as a party of the opposition. And now, luckily, we have got the single largest party status. And we have not asked the president to allow us to form the government. The President of India has on his own appointed Atalji as the Prime Minister. So we should take the plunge. What will happen? We will lose the majority, we may even lose the vote of trust, and then there may be criticism also. But if we continue like that, we will continue to remain a party of the opposition. So I personally feel, and in a very forceful manner, as he was a very young, dynamic leader also, he said, nothing doing, this time let's take the plunge. So Atalji kept quiet. Advaniji also favored that we should not form the government. And he was a man of principle. He said no, and particularly he was very conscious of the public opinion also, the media also. But Pramod Mahajan said, Advaniji, nothing doing. I think let's do it. Then Sushma Swaraj was also opposing it, like Advaniji. But in the process, obviously, there must have been some heated exchanges. But the final outcome was that the party decided to go, or the leadership decided to go what Pramod was saying. And they accepted it. And it came as a huge surprise in Indian politics. And as I also written in the book, the legal luminaries were also divided on this issue. How can the president invite and ask him to form the government without ascertaining whether they have numbers or not? Then the other opinion was, and they were all stalwarts, legal luminaries like Rajiv Dhawan, Soli Sarabji, H.R. Khanna, all those. So they were also divided in their opinion. Why they were divided? Because in my book I have also written that how and why Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma gave a letter of appointment to Vajpayee. It's a very interesting anecdote. And as I also learned at that time and later on also, that Vimla Sharma, the wife of President Shankar Dayal Sharma, since her young days was a fan of Vajpayee, which I think the entire country was. There's no doubt about it. And she wanted that, why not given a chance to Mr. Vajpayee. So she didn't like any housewife or wife of the president. She said, she gave an argument. She said in the British system, and we have got the British parliamentary system from. So she said in Britain, this is not the practice. There the practice is that the king or the queen, in the event of a hung parliament, they will straightaway appoint the leader of the largest party as the prime minister. And then it is for the prime minister to get a vote of confidence from the house or the opposition to pull that government down. So therefore, there is nothing wrong if we also experiment this process. And Shankar Dayal Sharma agreed. Maybe because of this valid argument or nobody knows, because as I have said in my book also, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma all along had been a Congress leader. He was Congress president, union minister, vice president, the president of India. No, and he was a learned person. He studied law in Cambridge University. So therefore, his wisdom could not be questioned. But the legal opinion was also divided. Half of them were in his favor. So that was the point. Why the discussion took place within the BJP.
Right.
And then what happened, as you know, Vajpayee did not face the vote of trust. He faced the parliament and made a very forceful speech also. And then he left the house and went to the president and resigned. But during that debate in Lok Sabha, there were allegations leveled by some opposition leaders that Mr. Vajpayee, you are also doing the same thing, horse trading and this. Then Vajpayee stood up and said in Hindi, which is very significant, and that particular Lok Sabha speech is still being watched by thousands of people on YouTube. He said, if I may say in Hindi,
Right.
he said, मुझ पर आरोप लगाया जा रहा है कि हम भी खरीद फरोश से जोड़ तोड़ से सरकार बनाकर सत्ता में बना रहना चाहते हैं. मैं जोड़ तोड़ की और खरीद फरोश में विश्वास नहीं करता और ऐसी सरकार को तो मैं चींटी से भी छूना नहीं चाहूँगा. Then he made a very forceful point. He said, इस देश में पार्टियां आएंगी, टूटेंगी, सत्ता सरकारें आएंगी, सरकारें जाएंगी, लेकिन ये देश रहना चाहिए, इस देश का लोकतंत्र रहना चाहिए. That particular punch line of Vajpayee is still, being watched by millions of people on the YouTube. So that was the story of the 13-day government.
Right. And the book also, talks in greater detail about his association with the Sangh, how involved he was, his relation with different RSS chiefs. And one in particular, which I found very interesting, was K. Sudarshan. So it was, positive as well as negative. What exactly happened? Because I read this particular para which talks about how he had made a comment about how Advani ji and Vajpayee ji should now retire, and it was from a public sort of a platform, and the reaction that Mr. Vajpayee gave.
You're right. See, there had been doubts raised in various quarters about Vajpayee's relations with RSS. So that's why I have got quotable quotes of different RSS chiefs about Mr. Vajpayee, and Mr. Vajpayee's also comments on different RSS chiefs. But when it comes to Mr. K.S. Sudarshan, obviously that time Vajpayee was in the government, he was the Prime Minister, and Mr. Sudarshan was the RSS chief. So he was not very happy with the functioning of the government because he wanted the BJP in power to take up the core issues of the BJP. And this is where the differences cropped up. And Vajpayee always took the position that it is an NDA government, it's a coalition government, we can't enforce our agenda. So therefore there has to be a common minimum program sort of thing, and we have kept these three issues out of the government
and
agenda.
we have to abide by that.
Yeah, but that was but unfortunately, what happened was that Mr. K.S. Sudarshan took it to public platform to criticize Vajpayee government, and also at one stage, as you also mentioned, he said it's time for Vajpayee and Advani both to retire. And in that context, Vajpayee said, "Na tired, na retired." And this is how the whole chapter is. But one thing I would like to mention here is that when Vajpayee died, there was an attempt in certain political quarters also, and a section of the media also, to draw the inference that Vajpayee was not at all comfortable in the BJP, and he had very sort of, if I may use the word, not very favorable relations with the RSS. So that was an attempt made during that time, and I also know because I was on a number of channels for and they also tried that if they could get something out of me, that no, Vajpayee was not very comfortable. That is why the chapter...
Not comfortable with the RSS.
Both RSS
As
and
well as
within
the
the BJP
BJP.
also there were allegations, because I
Right.
remember during the debate, I think it was 13-day government or 13 months government, there were shouts from within the house, "Oh, you are right man in the wrong party," and all that. Therefore, at the time of his death, there was an attempt. So, therefore, the chapter on RSS relation with Vajpayee is important.
Right. You also mentioned that, at one point, Mr. Vajpayee also tried to sort of draw the line that, there is a certain level of acceptance when it comes to RSS, but, you use the word कि government to Vivek se chalegi.
Yes, so that was also in the context of what K.S. Sudarshan used to say.
Okay.
That the coalition government has a coalition dharma, as he used to call it. So therefore, he cannot be literally directed by the RSS, the agenda part of it. So therefore, he was also committed to that agenda. But when he was heading a coalition government, you can't implement that kind of agenda. So therefore, he was also replying in a way, because when journalists used to ask him, and that is why he said, "I am not in RSS, I am in the BJP."
right.
So he had to draw a line that while you are heading the government, you are Prime Minister of the whole country, you cannot be, viewing your own agenda in that context. So I think that is sort of a running debate used to be there during that time, and therefore you will find what Vajpayee used to say and what Mr. Sudarshan used to say.
Right.
That is there in the...
You also mentioned that how former PM Narasimha Rao, he had this inkling that, the US was not sort of in the favor of, they did not want Vajpayee as the PM. If you could narrate that incident.
No, there are two separate instances. One is that when Mr. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister, he wanted to do nuclear test. But there was pressure from the US and he could not do it. So he had that regret. So he wanted his successor Vajpayee to do the same thing. That's why there is a report which is already in public domain, that at the swearing-in ceremony, Narasimha Rao handed over a chit to Vajpayee. There's so many versions about it, that unfinished agenda, you complete, etc., etc. But the fact remains, he wanted Vajpayee to do the nuclear test, and which he could not do during the 13-day government. Now, when the government was formed again, the first thing he did was nuclear test, no doubt about it. Now, firstly, Narasimha also had the inkling and that the US didn't want Vajpayee to become the Prime Minister for these very reasons. And then I have quoted a declassified document of the US government. They have a system, the classified documents are declassified after a certain period. Now, in one of those declassified documents, the then US ambassador in India, Frank Wisner, he had sent a report to Washington in which he said that his understanding is that the US should not favor Vajpayee as the next Prime Minister of India, because he said, I met Vajpayee on the eve of the 1996 election, and I got the impression if he becomes the Prime Minister, he will certainly do the test, which will not be appreciated by the US government. So that context shows that the US was not very keen that Vajpayee should become the Prime Minister. But later on, after the nuclear test, we all know what happened. Gradually, the
Right.
sanctions were also lifted, and Indo-US relations also became normal.
Right. Mr. Vajpayee, whenever one talks about him, a lot is also said about the kind of decisions he took to forge good relations with Pakistan. And especially, the Lahore Yatra, including that. But, again, you also mention in your book how there was this incident that led to him writing a letter to Bill Clinton. So, what exactly happened there?
No, see, this letter to Bill Clinton, I think it was in the context of Kargil.
Yes, yes.
That I have quoted this letter,
The angry letter that sort of you
whatever
wrote,
you may call it, but this particular episode I have absolutely lifted from a report published by byline report by editor of a leading English daily from New Delhi,
Right.
Indian, and I have verbatim quoted that letter in which he has said that he had seen that letter. So therefore, I will not comment on
Right.
because it's a report. It's like
You've reproduced that.
Yeah,
Right.
I reproduce.
You also talked about this entire incident about the hijacking of the Indian Airlines, and there was this incident where you went into a panic mode because there were these journalists who were planning to be in the same plane as the minister, right?
Yes, there is an instance, and what happened was that I will not go into the detail.
Yeah.
When Mr. Jaswant Singh was to go to Kandahar to negotiate the release of our Indian hostages, and then I got a report, a phone call from a journalist at Delhi airport that Mr. Jaswant Singh is taking a press party to Kandahar, and that was a big shock to me. And in fact, I have already on X clarified that by mistake I have mentioned at that time the JS spokesperson, XP division, was Mr. Navtej Tarna. It was Mr. Raminder Jassal.
Okay.
And so that mistake I have admitted publicly also. So I called Raminder Jassal, who was there at the airport, that Raminder, I'm told this is happening. Normally, as you know, the bureaucrats will say no comment.
Yes.
So I knew, and then there were a number of calls coming to me protesting journalists who were not on board as part of the press party.
Yes.
So I thought that we'll have to stop it. It's not a very wise move. So in the process, as I have also said in my book, that I had to call residents of Vajpayee, and he had gone for the afternoon siesta. So he was woken up, and then I had alerted the JSXP, Mr. Jassal, I will call you on your phone because Jaswant Singh never carried a mobile phone. And then Vajpayee spoke to Mr. Jaswant Singh something. What transpired, I don't know. But the press party was offloaded. And then I got again call from a media
About the
person.
female
No,
journalist.
somebody is still inside and she is not getting out and all that. She is insisting she wants to go. And then I told Jassal that you somehow arrange a lady security personnel and she should not go to Kandahar. And that was, I thought that was more from the point of view of the media.
Right, right.
Because sometimes what happens is we in the media, in the process of our professional duty, we forget some security considerations. Now you can imagine, because I was told that she had gone prepared to interview the terrorist.
The
on
female
board.
journalist.
On board, yeah. So
You've not named her.
no, I have not named her because there is no need. But what I am saying is from the point of view of national security, sometimes we journalists should also be very careful. And sometimes we forget to be first with the news and all that breaking news. And this is the whole nation experienced during the terrorist attack in Mumbai.
Right, right. You're talking about media. I mean, how often, Vajpayee ji used to meet the press? How was the interaction between the press and, the PM?
So, Vajpayee as PM had excellent relations with the media because he himself was a journalist. He was editor of a couple of magazines and newspapers. So, there was absolutely no problem. One thing which we did was wherever Atalji went as Prime Minister, every state capital, every visit, he used to have interaction with the local media. So, and then any interview request was granted. Moreover, we used to even organize Vajpayee's get together with editors.
Okay.
Say sometimes say all the English editor, and then next time the Hindi editor, then the language editor. So it was a continuous process. Even during his visits abroad, we used to take a huge press party, sometimes 30, 32, most of them editors and senior journalists. So the whole equation with the media was excellent.
Right. And he was open to criticism.
Yeah, of course, he was open to criticism because he himself was a media person, and he always felt that the media is responsible and media should be responsible and they should do their job professionally, taking all the national interest into consideration. So,
was there any particular incident where he was criticized and
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I've specifically mentioned Janasatta of the Indian Express Group. And one day he asked me, where is Janasatta? And he said, don't you know, today Prabhat Joshi's column is a weekly column, and which I used to read every day. Today I have not read it. No, after reading, it was full of criticism of the Vajpayee government, and in fact its headline was Swayam Sevak Pradhan Mantri. And then he laughed and enjoyed it and said, okay, Prabhat ji ko phone lagao. And then they discussed, laughed and discussed so many things. So no criticism. He never, in fact, asked him, why have you written this? So that was because of his stature as a great parliamentarian and himself being a media person. So he was not perturbed or critical or of any journalist. He used to welcome criticism.
Why I also ask this is because a lot has changed from then to now. I don't think, we have a media relations officer as such in the PMO, and PM also, he faces a lot of criticism over not having any press conferences.
See, to be very frank, I would not like to comment on, because I am discussing here the book. So I can discuss at length anything of the Vajpayee era. So otherwise we will get into a different kind of a debate.
Sure. So, but how was his relation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi? You have spoken about it, but I just thought if for our viewers.
Of course, there is a full chapter about his equation with Narendra Modi when he was the BJP organizing secretary in Delhi, and I have referred to the earthquake in Gujarat. And he, of course, offers all help to the state government headed by Keshubhai Patel. But he summoned Modi in Delhi and said, you immediately go to Gujarat and coordinate all the relief and rehabilitation measures with the organizations like RSS and the government, because he was very young at that time. So he had tremendous faith in his organizing capacity, and which he delivered also. He did a wonderful job during the relief and rehabilitation measures. And later on, I think that was one of the reasons why both Atal ji and Advani ji decided to send him as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And there, again, we all know, I have also quoted whenever Mr. Narendra Modi as CM used to visit Delhi, he would not miss a chance to meet Mr. Vajpayee at his residence as the ex-Prime Minister, because he was not keeping well. And when Mr. Vajpayee on ventilator at AIIMS, he came specially to Delhi, spent about 2 to 3 hours by his side. And so I think he has also paid huge tribute to Vajpayee by honoring him with Bharat Ratna, and also number of schemes, welfare schemes he has launched in the name of Vajpayee, and also his era as a good governance day. So therefore, I think any criticism, again, there is an effort to create a wedge between Vajpayee and Modi, which did not exist. So otherwise, he could have easily avoided giving him Bharat Ratna or even launching so many schemes under his name. So I think this chapter will clarify the relation between Vajpayee and Narendra Modi.
Also, not many would know about this, but your book mentions how there was also a thinking within the party that Atalji should go on to, assume the responsibility of the president, and, Advani ji should take on the reins of the prime minister. What exactly happened?
No, see, that time there was a presidential election was due, and obviously so many names were being discussed and floated around. And there were two prominent names were in the reckoning. One was Dr. P.C. Alexander, who was the governor of Maharashtra, and the other was the incumbent vice president, Mr. Krishna Kant. But Vajpayee would never reveal his mind. So anybody coming to him suggesting names was okay. And then in the process, there was a demand, if I may say so, that BJP is the single largest party, and why not, select somebody from within the BJP? But Atalji always felt that it is not the BJP government, it's a coalition government. And you have to take coalition partners on board. So therefore imposing any presidential candidate of the BJP may not go well with the coalition government as always our partner. So therefore then in the process, as you asked me, there was a suggestion that then Vajpayee ji is sort of a acceptable leader. So why not he becomes the president? No, nobody said that Advani should become the prime minister, but it is obvious. If Atalji goes to Rashtrapati Bhavan, the obvious choice for the prime ministership of the NDA government would have been Mr. Advani. But why I have mentioned this particular incident? Because why he said no is more important than what transpired in the media or the public domain. His observation or his, I think, very strong conviction was that the Prime Minister in the Westminster model of parliamentary democracy is the popular leader, is the most powerful, he heads the government, and he is elected on the basis of the majority earned through a direct mandate of the people. Now, if such a powerful and popular leader making use of that majority in the electoral college, if he becomes the president, it will be setting a very bad precedent for parliamentary democracy like India. So therefore, he would be the last person to support such a move. Because in the larger context, it is unhealthy practice, it's a very bad convention, and maybe in the larger run, later on, it may even prove to be dangerous for parliamentary democracy. That was his conviction. And therefore he said no, he will not support any such move. So this is the context.
And then he suggested Mr. Kalam.
Then he in fact had, in his mind he had Kalam. But he did not discuss with the partners trying to make a sort of consensus because it would have been revealed. So first thing he did was to invite the opposition leader and consult them, rather tell them that we want to have a consensus and we want you to be on board. And that is why at that time I remember, as I said in the book, Sonia Gandhi came, Pranab Mukherjee and Dr. Manmohan Singh. They were the tallest leaders of the Congress party at that time. And then when Vajpayee announced that we have decided to have Dr. Kalam as our presidential candidate, they were surprised. And as I said, there was a silence in the room for some time. But Sonia Gandhi spoke that we are flabbergasted by your choice. We have no option but to support him, but we will get back, discuss in our party, and then decide. So, they were not in a way prepared for this kind of a surprise announcement, because Dr. Kalam announcement came as a huge surprise in political circle. And as I also mentioned, Mr. Mulayam Singh said he is my candidate. And it was more or less a near consensus, national consensus, and that Dr. Kalam became the president, and perhaps one of the most popular presidents Indian democracy has got. He was not only successful, he was so hugely popular even among youngsters, even children. So I think that was the best choice of that time.
You mentioned Sonia Gandhi. There are certain anecdotes, that you have mentioned in the book too. If you could talk a little about them also.
Yeah, one, as I said, as the leader of the Congress party, she was taken into confidence first. And the other was during the attack on Parliament.
The Parliament attack. Yes.
And I remember we were watching our security forces operations going on at the PM residence on television. And then suddenly there was a call that Sonia ji wants to talk to the PM. And she said, Mr. Prime Minister, I'm really worried about your security. Where are you? I hope you are safe. No, it was a very honest gesture, appreciable gesture. And then Vajpayee said, I am also equally concerned about you. You may be trapped in parliament, but take care. I am also concerned about your safety. This kind of discussion taking place at the height of a crisis, national crisis going on, and the leader of the opposition thinking of the prime minister's safety. This is more important than Vajpayee reciprocating and asking, are you still okay and you are not trapped in parliament? So therefore I thought it is important to mention, let the younger generation and the future generations also know that at the time of national crisis, the leader of the opposition is also concerned about not only the national security but also about the prime minister's safety and security. So I think it's a very important gesture, a very significant gesture. As I said, Indian parliamentary democracy, you have to have this kind of relationship between the opposition and the ruling party, irrespective of the fact that you may have differences of opinion.
Right. You also mentioned that Prime Minister was Vajpayee was also not really in favor of these early polls that the party sort of suggested, but he agreed. Why was that?
Yes, I have mentioned it in my book that in December 2003, there was state assembly election
Madhya
which
Pradesh.
BJP had won, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan. And there was a euphoria in the party and the NDA also that why not take the plunge and go for early poll because the atmosphere is favorable. And in that backdrop, there was a party national executive meeting in Hyderabad. There practically everybody favored early poll, but Vajpayee kept quiet. As a result, the decision was taken to advance the election from October to May.
Correct.
And on way back in the plane, we simply inquired from Atalji, why did you agree? Why did you keep quiet? And the weather is not good in May and health-wise he was nearing 80. And he said, if I had said that let's have election on time, everybody would have agreed. But suppose in October election, we had lost, then everybody would have said for his 6 months prime ministership, Vajpayee has, lost almost election which he was winning. So I didn't want that. So therefore I decided to go with the majority and kept silent. And that's why the elections were held in May, 6 months in advance. But even then the NDA lost. But the blame was not on Vajpayee. At least nobody blamed him. And that was in his mind. He always was very conscious of public opinion, that what the public opinion will think about it. Obviously, if the elections had taken place in October and NDA would have lost, first thing would have been, see, we were winning 6 months ago, but today we have lost. That was, I think, more important than the commenting or not commenting on the early poll. That his thinking was that I should allow people to talk about it. That 6 months prime ministership was very expensive in political terms,
Right.
but it wasn't.
Right. You also, as I said, the book also talks about his individual relationship with, certain leaders. Two which I found very interesting were, Advani ji as well as Subramaniam Swamy, because Subramaniam Swamy, you have given certain anecdotes, how the relationship started, what it turned into. If you could share certain anecdotes for our viewers.
Yeah, before that, let me share with you his relations with the opposition leaders,
Yes.
which we have already discussed
Sure.
with Sonia Gandhi. But two anecdotes which I have mentioned, but more important is his equation with Somnath Chatterjee. Somnath Chatterjee was a veteran CPM leader, a great parliamentarian, and Vajpayee was a former prime minister when the UPA government came and he was made the speaker of the Lok Sabha. Now he came just to courtesy call on Atalji, and Vajpayee congratulated him, but he was not happy. And he said, Atalji, I have been pushed up by my own government. You can imagine a veteran CPM leader sharing his mind with a BJP leader who was not even the prime minister. So this is the kind of
Comfort.
he and both of them enjoyed with each other. Then I also given an instance of Sharad Pawar relation.
Yes.
And that was when he was the Prime Minister. If you have time, I can even
Yes,
elaborate
please,
that.
please do.
No, Sharad Pawar was a veteran Maharashtra leader, NCP leader, former Chief Minister. As we know in Maharashtra, when you complete 60 years, they celebrate a Shashti Purti birthday. So he came and invited Vajpayee that in Mumbai we are having a big show. So Vajpayee kept quiet. But when Pramod Mahajan came to know about it, he came running and said, Atalji, you can't go there because we are having Maharashtra politics, we are facing them and they are our opponent and it will send a very wrong message. So he didn't
He kept
respond
quiet.
at all. But on that day he said, we will go to Mumbai. And I remember we left around 8:30 in the night and reached there around 10 in the evening. And the event was at the Mahalakshmi race course, huge crowd. And the moment Prime Minister appeared on the stage, you can imagine the kind of gesture and all welcome, as if it was to welcome Vajpayee, not Sharad Pawar. So that kind of relation he enjoyed. Now you wanted to ask me about Subramaniam Swami. There is a whole chapter about it. No, Subramaniam Swami was a very dynamic young leader at that time, firebrand, and he was also a member of parliament at that time when emergency was proclaimed. So he escaped parliament and then I think he went abroad somewhere to campaign against the emergency. And at that time he was being equated with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose escape. And Vajpayee wrote a poem in support of Subramaniam Swami. But after the Janata government was formed, he was not made a minister in Morarji Desai
He was not included in the
He
cabinet.
was not included. And you know, the cabinet of Morarji Desai was formed on the basis of the quota system of different constituents, former constituents. So the Jansangh quota, there were 3 cabinet ministers and some MOS, etc. But Subramaniam Swami was missing. So he went and complained to Morarji Desai. And Morarji said, your party has given the list to me. It is Vajpayee who has decided who will be the minister. So he turned against Vajpayee. And he genuinely believed what Morarji was saying. And then he started criticizing Vajpayee from that on. But then later on, although at that time, the Jansangh faction, they formed a Janata Yuva Morcha and made him as president of that, but he was never happy with that. And that kind of, the whole thing continued. And he was never comfortable in accepting Vajpayee's leadership. And that is the kind of relation they enjoyed. But it was not a very, although Vajpayee never retorted or gave any reply to his criticism, he just kept quiet and ignored it because he thought, okay, young man, he can do anything. But that kind of relationship I have mentioned in my book.
Right. And Mr. Advani, because I remember you've written that how after, they were reduced to 2 seats, they both went out and watched a movie.
Yes. No, I have also
Yes.
mentioned that these 2 leaders, they were the one who built the party. When in 1984 election, I think after Indira Gandhi's assassination, the election was held and Congress won a thumping majority. Rajiv Gandhi became the prime. Vajpayee also lost from Gwalior. And the BJP was reduced only to 2 seats, one from Gujarat and one from, I think, Andhra, United Andhra, you can imagine. So they used to even enjoy the defeat and went to see a movie, Fir Subah Hogi. So from there onward, they built the party and brought it to the ruling party status. So their equation was like a team. They were complementary to each other. And that is how they built the party. And when they formed the government, obviously they were the 2 top leaders and the pillars of the government. And they had excellent relations.
But were there ever any differences between them? How they used to sort it out?
I think I will say that there were no fundamental differences. See, there could be a minor difference of opinion on some issue, but by and large they took a very collective decision. There was a 2-man team and they took most of the decisions as far as the BJP is concerned. So they enjoyed excellent relations. And the kind of positive equation they had, the kind of word they used to each other, I think nobody will doubt about their excellent relationship. So by and large, I have said that maybe on some issues they have difference of opinion, but otherwise they were the real policy makers of the government as well as the BJP.
Right. And we already have spoken about it in my last question about the Pokhran, test. But, the kind of sanctions that India had to sort of go through, how was it like, the kind of pressure that Mr. Vajpayee must have been?
As we have discussed, taking nuclear test was not an easy job. The US satellite they were watching, they were even had manual ground surveillance. In spite of that, the nuclear tests were conducted. So obviously the West was not happy, US was also very annoyed. So they imposed sanctions, economic sanctions. But the whole country was united, the opposition was also supporting it. And then the Vajpayee government decided to send to different capitals of the world our diplomatic missions and our envoys to explain India's position. And in that, a number of stalwarts also volunteered, like former Prime Minister I.K. Gujral also went as an envoy of the government of India, Prime Minister. And gradually we know then the Indo-US talks started, and then the ice melted and gradually relations improved. Then the West also had no option. They could not ignore India. So they wanted, but immediately after the test, they were very strict, very hard sanctions imposed. But India survived that also. And the Indo-US relations also survived that.
Right. And how was it for you, working so closely with Mr. Vajpayee?
No, it was, I would say, a very difficult thing to do that, because as I also mentioned the book from student days, as I said, the whole country was his fan. So we also used to go and watch, to listen to him, and then suddenly when you know that you have to be part of his team and work, it was a very difficult thing. But hats off to his stature. But one thing which I learned was that when you are working with a great personality, and then you realize how simple they are in their personal life and also towards their colleagues. I will not even qualify to be a colleague also. We were a very junior person and also a journalist. So, but somehow he always gave us a chance and listened to us, and I think that was a great moment of my life, that to work with him and understand his life and then learn a lot of things from his persona. And that's why the whole nation discusses Vajpayee every year on his eve of his birthday. And we are also talking about Vajpayee because the people want to know and listen about what exactly was the Vajpayee era. It's a great era, I must say.
Right.
No doubt.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time. It was a pleasure to speak to you and to, listen to this anecdotes. I hope our viewers will enjoy it too. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much.